I'm here with Andraya Yearwood. Am I saying that right too?
Yeah.
Okay, sweet. Yeah. Yeah. This is amazing. I really appreciate you taking the time to just sit down with me and uh just chat and get to know each other a little bit and um yeah. Let's for the good people out there, I go by she her pronouns.
She, her as well.
Yes. Yes. Um Sick. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, we were talking a little bit before this, just I feel like about passions and stuff that uh fill up your sort of energy. And you said you're starting a master's program.
Yeah.
Yeah, what has been in either a big or little way? What are some things that have been giving you life
Okay.
recently?
um well, I think we were talking about it a little earlier. I think the people I've met, whether it be in
Yeah.
my undergrad or during my summer at Middlebury or even now in my master's program, I think all the people that I've met in each kind of I don't want to say stage, but in each kind of period of this past year, or maybe like past 4 years, um, have been really meaningful to like my trajectory in either my academic career or in just outside of academics, like in my passions, what I want to do for fun. I think I've made really, really dope connections with some really dope people. And those connections and those people only, I think, further motivate me to like continue doing what I love and continue expanding myself. Like you
Mhm.
said, like challenging myself, whether it be with language or academia or anything outside of that. So yeah, everything the connections I made and relationships that I got that I've been able to build with people I've met.
Yeah. It's so interesting because you are you've said to me you're incredibly passionate about learning languages and um it's language if you language is about connection. I'm
Yeah.
curious, so do you feel like the connections you make with other people who are passionate about language, are there any commonalities between those, like how you connect with other people? Is it just
Okay.
oh, you love that word, I love that word too, have you
Yeah.
noticed any patterns?
I would say probably the biggest one is international and intercultural experiences.
For
I
sure.
realized like this summer I was in Middlebury and then like last summer I was in Brazil. And
Mhm.
both times,
That's so cool.
both were for like language learning. And so obviously everybody in those programs are there to learn languages, and everybody in those programs maybe speaks like either what maybe like two or three languages. So so that we had a connection, like just knowing a lot of languages and genuinely enjoying it and being able to communicate with each other in those languages. And then apart from that, a lot of them had international experiences, other than like what we're experiencing at the moment, right? So like being in Middlebury, a lot of kids studied abroad and so, um, or like had like lived somewhere else for a few years or like even a few months. And so having those international experiences, I think it's one of the things that really brought us together because we could then kind of like compare and contrast those experiences. Like, oh, I was in Argentina, or oh, I was in Uruguay, and be able to compare the cultures between those two and our experiences within those places. And then even if like we were in the same countries, right? So like I remember I had one friend who I think like, I went to Brazil and she also went to Brazil. We were both in Rio, not at different times, but like we were both in the same around the same area. So we were able to like, kind of bond over, oh, did you go here? Yeah. So oh, I went here too. And kind of having those like, little conversations, little connections based on like geographical locations.
Hmm.
And I think on like a larger scale, just being around people who are so like internationally aware, I would say, and internationally like cognizant.
Hmm.
Um, this is really cool because I think for me personally, it only further motivated me to do the same, right? It only further motivated me to, oh, now I want to go here and I want to go abroad here because I have friends who have gone there. And because like, oh my God, everybody's so well traveled now, like that only further pushes me to be well traveled as well. So I would say kind of our intercultural experiences has been a real like connector for us.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that. Yeah. Are there any specific places that you want to travel next? Like if
Uh,
time or money was no object and you're yep, I'm taking it, I'm putting a pause on the masters, where would you want to go?
for a few like years, I've been really interested in Vietnamese. So
Oh,
I'd
that's
really like to go to
awesome.
Vietnam. I have a friend
Mhm.
actually who's teaching English in Vietnam for 2 years, and he starts in October. So I'm not like a bit jealous, but I think that'll be cool. I'd love to go to Vietnam or like Mongolia or Nepal. I would love to go
Mhm.
there. But yeah, I think those would be cool.
That's awesome. Yeah. I just want to say, like, before I forget, like, I'm so like, you are very much a hero for me. Uh
Thank you.
I not to get too corny, but yeah, I just like I've said, I think like so Liza, this short I wrote and directed is like really I hope like I think one a very like a story for me just kind of telling through other characters what it's like to come out and like wrestle with this thing, be it sports or whatever, right? That like you maybe have a moment of panic, like, oh wow, is this going to like stay with me as I change
Mhm.
through my transition? Uh and like I think like looking at your story and just like the story of other like really brave and resilient and just badass, yeah, trans athletes who are just like, well, I'm gonna do my thing. Like this is who I am, and like I won't let you know outside pressures or just sort of like narrow conceptions of like gender and
Of course.
gender binary like take that away from me. So I just like at the very least, thank you for your time, and I just really yeah, I really feel indebted to you, like being as comfortable as I am with myself, and I'm sure countless others of like trans people across the country and across the world. So I really just hope you know how many people are grateful for you. At least one. Yeah.
Well, I really appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Those really
Yeah.
kind words. Thank you. I really
Of
appreciate that.
course.
Well, thank you. No, I really do appreciate um those very generous words. And I think uh I feel the same. I think that you and a lot of other trans individuals, whether it be in film or whether it be in athletics, I think just one like doing what you love and one doing what you love and making and transing your passions or transing a certain
It's
uh
transing. Yeah. I love that.
a
That's too fun.
certain like field, I think is really sick. And I think obviously we need more of that. So big up props to you and continue
Thank
to do
you.
obviously your thing in film. And then yeah.
Yeah, I'm blushing. Oh my God. Hell yeah. Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say if from what you recall, like did any like aspects of the script or like what I sent to you like
Okay, yeah.
resonate with you?
I
Cool.
would say truthfully, like probably the thing that I don't isn't like the whole maybe like the whole point of the film, but I really resonated with I know that Liza really kind of like missed track and that's why she was working when she was working to begin with. Right? Because you
Hmm.
had that like oh I miss my experience in track in my athletic world community. And I definitely share the same sentiment. Still do and again throughout college. I remember my freshman year of college, I think maybe like first semester, I emailed the director of the trap team. It was
Hmm.
like, hey, like, could I walk on? like,
That's
because at
that's
the time,
awesome.
like, I kept going back and forth whether should I do trap, should I not? Do I want to do it? Do I not want to do it? And I think I kind of shot in the dark. I was like, can I come on? And he was like, yeah, come to tryouts. And then I didn't show up because like chickened out. It was like, no, actually don't want to do it. But I think I do share that same sentiment of like still really wanting to be on a team, still really wanting to run track, and just like be in that athletic world, athletic community. And again, I still feel that way. I mean, even right now, I'm wearing a t-shirt from like a track meet,
Hell
so
yeah.
from
Let's
high
go.
school. So
Yeah.
I think, yeah, I definitely share a sentiment of still wanting to participate, still wanting to track. And I remember I still watch like the Olympics in track, or like even like the
Yes.
NCAA's.
Yeah.
I watch their track meets a lot because like I just miss it, and it's a really dope time. Apart from like all the media and shit and stuff, just being like on a team, right, having that community and having such a great support system at Cromwell uh, was really unique, and yeah,
Hmm.
I miss it a lot.
how have you found like community, the same type of community in track,
Mm-hmm.
uh, outside of it, if you have at all, would you say?
Mm-hmm. I would say like my like language learning experiences are kind of similar because
Mm-hmm.
in track, right, you're all together, kind of like I guess you're like striving to meet a certain goal, like improve your athletic ability, whether like during practice, for example, you're all saying like dying together after each workout,
Mm-hmm.
um, or like just always having to be together after school. And like I
Mm-hmm.
said, like running together, working out together, just like putting in all the energy and all the effort and something into your end goal. And
Mm-hmm.
I would say like at Middlebury and in Brazil, like those things rang true. Right. I'd say especially at Middlebury because at Middlebury we have like there's a thing called a language pledge where you can only speak the language in which you're studying. So like I was in
Oh.
Spanish, so you can only speak Spanish there, and like that's it, nothing else. And if you spoke English, you get kicked out of the program. So if like you have to like sign away your life, no, but like sign away, um, like sign like the language pledge and everything. So it was taken really seriously. And obviously, everybody there wants to learn language, so everybody's going to follow the language pledge because that's the whole point why everyone's there, right? So like having to always speak in Spanish and having to only speak in Spanish, that was a big struggle. So I think like struggling and then like kind of enclosed, not I'm saying enclosed, like struggling in an environment where you're all together, you're always around each other all the time. I think that kind of shares similarities between track and Middlebury.
Mm-hmm.
But the athletics part, not too much. I haven't really found that too much. Maybe here in New York, I can join like a running club or something,
Mm-hmm.
um, and find something that way. But yeah. Mainly like
Yeah,
the camaraderie of a track I've been able to find in other places. Yes.
totally. Yeah. Yeah, I think you've said like what we've said like having intercultural experiences, but like
Hmm.
in terms of, yeah, with like a community of language learners, are there interpersonal qualities that you feel like make someone like a good community member that like you strive to embody yourself or that you look for in other people?
Um, I would say like just open mindedness.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would hope that a majority of the people there are, but that's not always the case. But like right, like I feel like if you're studying language, you're also studying culture and different cultures. So I feel like there needs to be some kind of open mindedness if you're like learning other cultures apart from your own. But I would say, yeah, just being like open minded, and not being too like closed off to certain like ways of life, certain
Mm-hmm.
individual identities. And I think that really like rang true both in again in Brazil and Middlebury. A lot of the people which like very um what's the word? I guess open, I guess, and just very like willing to talk to you, willing to speak with you, willing to like invite you over to sit with them, regardless of like your age, identity, whatever. So I really
Mm-hmm.
appreciate that.
Yeah. Have you found, if I can ask, like that the community of, yeah, sort of global language, like being trans is like something that you've had to, well, I don't want to, yeah, like how have you found like that aspect of your identity has like played into like your, because right, if like we've said, like I think it, connecting with people across different cultures, like all aspects of identity are going to play a role, you know?
Hmm.
How do you feel like transness has like sort of been a piece of that puzzle?
I think it's um deepened my interest in
Hmm.
like the trans community, like specifically for me. Yeah, okay. I say deepen my interest in like how the trans community uses language. Apart from like
Mm.
obviously
Hmm.
English, like
Hmm.
one of my research interests is there's this language or like it's a queer secret language called Pajuva in Brazil, spoken by like queer people,
Ah.
like LGBTQ people, specifically trans women of color in Brazil. So I think like me being trans and my interest in language, I've been able to kind of fuse them and connect them together through that interest in research. But I would say like my personal experiences, I don't think it's influenced it that much. Like I know that in some languages they have like the third gender in their language. Like I know we write in English we have they.
Hmm.
In other languages they have something similar like Spanish, I think, and maybe in French, I'm not sure.
Hmm.
but I know those are like are becoming more and more popular, obviously, as more trans people and more queer people are visible. And so I think I'm seeing that used a bit more. Like I saw that used a bit at Middlebury the day in Spanish. I thought that was really dope. And just the inclusive language in general used in Spanish. That was really cool to like see it in practice. And not just see it like in books or whatever online. Um,
Is it like an ella is like
yeah,
the gender?
yeah,
Yeah, that's
yeah,
sick. Yeah.
yeah. So that's been
That's
really cool to
slay.
see.
Yeah.
And like to see people again like actually use it in practice, not seeing it just like in a text or in literature.
Yeah.
That's dope. Um, but yeah, I would say with my research interest, that obviously my transness has played a big part in what I hope to research in grad school. And then yeah, seeing the inclusive language actually being utilized, not something being like talked about in like caption.
Yeah, transness is like, as with I imagine like other identities, that
Mm-hmm.
are marginalized, like there is like that sort of gulf between like what is our like lived experience versus
Mm-hmm.
like what are we going to see like in media, on
Mm-hmm.
screen, in a book. Um and like, yeah, I think like this is like a good segue for like, sort of talking about yeah, just like media portrayals of
Mm-hmm.
trans people, or like have there been any pieces of media about the trans experience that you've been taking in recently, or from the past, that you've like been particularly like, yeah, this is awesome?
Um, okay, truthfully, not a lot. I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah, that I
Truthfully,
mean, that's valid. That's super.
um,
That's I
but
mean,
not obviously like because of its centering trans people. I don't really watch a lot of um hmm maybe like little like shorts on Instagram here and there.
mhm,
But like not anything like long length or like not long like full length or anything like a
mhm.
documentary, film, or movie. I'm trying to think. And not too much, but um, I think I have noticed like in media, just like what I've seen on social media, that there is a lot of like portrayal of like like the harms in being trans, right? And like what trans people have to go through,
Totally.
whether like regarding discrimination, sexual violence, murders, things like that. So I have seen all of that on social media. And I think like this film, the documentary that I was in, and the other documentaries surrounding
Yeah.
transness and queerness, I think does a good job to kind of combat that narrative around trans community and around like being trans.
Mhm.
Um, so I'm excited and looking forward to like seeing more of trans joy and like trans positivity within film and within media. Um, to kind of like yes, trans people go through these hardships and like they should be recognized, right? And they should be talked about. But it's also like okay, but we have to talk about the good things about being trans and about like what
Mhm.
trans people experience that give us joy, right? That give us happiness, something like that.
Completely. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. Are there like specific aspects of like the joyfulness of the trans experience that you would want to see more of, or
Okay. Um, I would say I think trans people like being in community with other trans people, with other gender
yes.
non-conforming people. I don't know. I see a lot of like trans people like a lot of like in isolation, maybe like
Mm,
either in isolation by themselves or in isolation like maybe surrounded by other cis people and like maybe them being
yeah.
like the only trans person. And I feel like there's a lot of like as we alluded to before, a lot of power and a lot of like necessity with trans people being around other trans people of other different cultures and other different identities, races, and genders. And so I think seeing trans people in community and having fun and enjoying themselves among each other, I think it's really important and really essential.
Wow. Yeah. You're so right. I really think, yeah, like we've literally just said, like the how much energy being in community gives you. And I feel like having that on screen is, or
Yeah.
just, yeah, in a book, in a song, like I would agree, like you said, really necessary.
Hmm.
Um,
And I think it also like again allows trans people and gender non-conforming people to like know there's a community out there. Cause I remember in my like freshman year of high school, especially around track, like I didn't know any other trans athletes like
Hmm.
at all, whether it be in Cromwell, whether it be in my state, whether it be in the country as a whole or in the world. So I felt very isolated. So I think having those representations of trans people just in community, whether it be specifically in sports, in whichever kind of facet of trans life, I think this is really like vital to trans people, um, like finding joy in their own transness.
Hmm.
It's again seeing other trans people surrounding themselves around people who look like them, who are like them.
Hmm.
And yeah, I think this further gives you more like self confidence, self what's the word, perseverance, to like to
Totally. Yeah.
continue being trans in like such a scary world.
Yeah. Yeah. No, totally. I agree. I think like having that, yeah, that sense of um yeah, just like building myself up, building my like
Mm-hmm.
my friends and my people up is like definitely like a wonderful pocket that like having, yeah, trans people on screen can do. Um yeah, just like that empowerment. And I think like we have like a fundamental, everyone has like a fundamental need to like see themselves reflected in the world that they inhabit, you
Yes.
know?
Yes.
Um aside from that, like building confidence in community, are there like other things you hope to see like, yeah, trans people like in media, like doing, like educating people or, you know?
Yes. Um, also, yeah, like education, outreach. Um, again, because I'm blanking on the statistic. But I'd say like a lot of people don't know many trans people in real life, right? They even know
Yeah,
trans people
for sure.
like through media, and like it may not be a great portrayal of trans people through which they're getting their media from, or the
Hmm.
perception of trans people from. So I would say, yeah, there's more, yeah, education, outreach, more, um, it's like sharing again, and this is why documentaries, why films, around trans people are so important, so that trans people, or that cis people can see other trans people just like in everyday life, and that could then further like break stereotypes, around how trans people are and how the trans community exists. But yeah, I would say the increase of like education, I think it's really important so that people genuinely and okay, education from trans people themselves, not from like other people writing about trans people, but like trans people telling their own stories. I
Hmm.
think further allows people to like shift their mindset around what being trans is and like who trans people are, and that will only further allow trans people to receive the like like basic necessities that they need, around healthcare, around
Yeah.
accessibility. So I
Yeah.
think yeah, more out. But I also feel like trans people like shouldn't have to like shouldn't be the only ones doing the educating, right?
No,
That
complete huge, of course. Yeah.
like cis people should also take a step to help trans people and to support trans people in doing the education. But I do
Hmm.
think there is value in trans people telling their own stories and like educating the community about their own community.
Yeah. No, I for sure. And I really loved, that you like got down to like the brass tacks of it, like healthcare, right? And like the fiscal support, right? Because, you know, right, that those are things we all need. And like, especially in the like awful political climate that we exist in so well in general, and just like as trans people, right, like we're seeing across the country, like, you know what I mean, there's just this like fight for fundamental access to healthcare, right, like which is disgusting, I'm well, those are my words, but
No,
yeah,
yeah.
it just like yeah, and like it do you feel like, even though like, someone isn't going to see like a short film or like read a work of like fiction about trans people and be like, ah, yes, I need to now like fight for trans healthcare. Do you still see like media and like arts that contain like trans stories, be they joyful or not, like as a step in sort of bringing about those like real goals? You know what I mean? Because it might seem like a little like, oh, okay, well, like, why is there, we don't have time for art if we have to like fight for healthcare. You know what I mean?
Got you. I think so. I think art and like in media
Hmm.
function really well as a way of like activism, and I think for a lot of trans people and a lot of gender nonconforming people to like I guess speak out about the injustice that they're experiencing, right? If they can't do it through one medium, they have another to do it through, whether it be like
Yeah.
literature or like again documentary making, filmmaking, speaking on like podcasts or on like in interviews. Um, though they may not translate to direct action, I think they can start to get people's like the wheels turning in their heads
Hmm.
of okay, this is what trans people go through. Maybe they shouldn't be going through this. What can I do to like help and support trans people?
Yeah.
Whether it be like monetarily or whether it be just like showing up at a rally or whatever, talking to your local legislator, whatever it may be. I think those film or I think those representations of trans people in media and in art can be like a stepping stone to yeah, like furthering the activism around trans people. And again, like those mediums, art and filmmaking, are activism in itself for trans people. So yeah, I think there'll be like stepping stones in helping like the greater community like again see what trans people go through and being like maybe I can do something to help prevent these hardships.
Yeah. What do you like? What do you specifically to like, um, yeah, I guess like creatives in general, or like people
Mhm.
who are trying to like tell trans stories, like, what do you wish uh other people would like internalize a little bit more or be more
Okay.
considerate of in terms of like this topic of like, yeah, bringing attention to the trans experience that you don't see as much? Or what do you think is a thing that like you have seen get better that you want to see people keep doing?
Okay. Um, I would say like humanizing the trans experience. Again, this is
Hmm.
more like within athletics. That's just my experience and my history.
Totally.
But yeah, I don't know. I've seen a lot of like documentaries or like just media in general around trans people just
Hmm.
solely focusing on like their biological anatomy and like
Yeah.
hormones, this, hormones, that. And it's like there's so much more to like being an athlete and like again being a trans athlete. Like there's so much more to our experience and like being a trans person in general. Right, there's so much more to our experiences and just those small, minute aspects. So I would say just like I remember in the Chasing the Game documentary, there was just a lot of holistic like storytelling, right? Like about like my friends or just like what I did for fun, my hobbies, my interests. Again, same with Mac and Sarah, just a lot more holistic um kind of portrayals of
Hmm.
myself and of the trans people in general. So I hope to see that more in media, but just about trans people just like living their lives and being trans. I think that
Hmm.
also helps to again like humanize the trans experience and allow people to see that like trans people are like no different than everybody else, right? Like we're no different than you, our neighbor, our sibling, right? That we have the same joys and we have the same hardships as a, a lot of people, and that we share the same like lived experiences. That we're not something to be like ostracized or alienated. And so I would like to see that more in me. Oh, I've seen it, and I have to continue seeing it.
Yeah. No, totally. And I mean, uh it's hard that
Yeah,
like just even now like we're talking like that we have to be like, hey folks, can you humanize like can you humanize trans people? Like it would be really nice if that wasn't the case.
yeah,
Um but like yeah, I know like obviously you have been like taken on a hero well, a large amount of like media attention and talking about your experience in a really vulnerable and brave way. Do you feel like uh there's value, or like what might uh the advantage of like telling like fictional trans stories compared
okay,
to like documentary stuff be? Do you see that as like opening up new doors that you might not get from just like interviewing real people, or the opposite? What does it lose out on?
okay. Yeah, well, one thing it shows trans people in different like lights and different facets, which I think is good to just have again like a more holistic, I don't know, like picture of trans
Hmm.
people and like a holistic understanding of trans people. And I think um I know a lot of the time fictional like storytelling and fictional media can be I don't know, maybe this is my kind of close perception of fiction, but in my experience, I've seen a lot of fiction be geared toward like children and like kind of like younger people. So
Mm.
I think if more trans people were in fiction, I think that would allow younger people to understand the trans experience a lot better. It might be more like palatable
Hmm.
for them.
Yeah.
Um, and one, I think again, just seeing trans people in just multiple aspects of media, right? Seeing them, whether it be in cartoons, narrative films, documentaries, just seeing people and like seeing trans people in all assets just allows us to become more accustomed to trans people, just more used to seeing trans people in everyday life, and that would also hopefully then coincide with humanizing trans people.
Hmm.
Hopefully, just like yeah, being more, and I'm like, I don't want to say tolerable, but just being more comfortable with seeing trans people. It's like in
Yeah.
every life, whether it be in fiction or nonfiction. Um, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I know you have to hop off, but I think the last thing I want to ask is like, do you, so what do you personally like? Are you not as much of like a fiction person in the media that you consume, or do you
Wow.
generally gear towards like nonfiction stuff,
Okay.
documentaries, news? What do you like to watch or partake in? Yeah.
um, yeah, I think I am more into like nonfiction. I
Hmm.
don't watch too much fiction. Not too sure why. I think maybe like nonfiction, obviously because it's nonfiction, it just feels more like real and
Yeah.
more, I don't know. I don't know if there's like a specific reason as to why I gravitate towards one over the other. But when I do watch films or like when I do engage in media, I think it is more just like nonfiction, I would say.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite? I have to ask.
Uh,
Favorite show or film?
okay. Uh, hmm. Okay, well, truthfully,
Tell me the
um,
truth. Tell me the truth.
okay, like more recently, I've been getting into more nonfiction, but I guess if I were to say like in the past, I used to watch Netflix a lot,
Hell yeah.
like
Yeah.
in high school, and so I would say that was more like nonfiction, obviously. So like maybe like oh, there was one show about like death. It was like I don't remember. Anyway, there was okay. Another show that I liked was called Elite, which is on
Oh,
Netflix.
with the Spanish boarding school, right?
That
Yes.
was cool.
Wait, yes. Okay, I totally I feel like this was like freshman or sophomore year. I was like, I'm gonna watch this, no subtitles in Spanish to get my Spanish
Yes.
up. And I totally dropped the ball on it. I totally dropped the ball on it. But it was really cool. And
Yeah.
it had like a really cool queer storyline. I feel like in the first
Mm,
episode, right? There's like the
okay.
drug dealer guy and he like has the boyfriend.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
And I
yeah,
remember being like, "Oh shit, like
yeah.
this is cool. Like this is
Yes.
really awesome." Yeah.
Yes. I thought that was dope. I also liked Casa de Papel, like Money. I don't know, something. I don't know. It was another Spanish show that I liked. And again, I watched them to like further improve my Spanish as
Hmm.
well. But then also again, because they were just interesting. And I was like, I'm bored on like a Saturday. Let me watch this. But yeah,
Totally. Yeah.
I would say those two
It
things.
seemed like you like language learners shows are the way to do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I
That's
agree.
awesome. Well, cool. Again, I am so grateful for you. Yeah, just taking the time to chat with me and
Of
connect and
course.
like, yeah,
If you ever
I'm
want to like talk again or have another conversation, like I'm down. If you have any more
amazing.
questions or anything, like I'm
Totally. Here, let
yeah.
me yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna just stop the recording real quick, but thank you for
Okay.
talking.